For more than 30 years, Roman Tritz has eaten alone, twice a day, at the King Street Kitchen in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Old-timers joke they can set their watches by his 10:30 arrival for breakfast.
Here you are, Roman. Anything else I can grab for you right away?
To the servers and other customers, he seems like a quiet, quirky old guy stuck in his ways. When he does talk, it's usually about being the target of government conspiracies.
I think the main one of that is the Colorado Federal Bureau of Investigation. They'd come out there with their Colorado battery-operated mind control radiation, turn it on me and hit me through the wall.
What they don't know is that Roman flew combat missions during World War II, that he came home to worsening psychiatric symptoms, and that on July 1st, 1953, doctors from the Veterans Administration put him under and gave him a lobotomy.
You see these scars here, don't you? That's what they were. The frontal lobe or something, I don't know, they cut off, I don't know why. Oh, when I first got it looked terrible, for Christ's sake. Looked like somebody shot with a goddamn shotgun.
World War II mythology says American boys came home victorious, married their girls, and put the war behind them. Roman Tritz is evidence that wasn't always the case. Digging through government records and interviewing families, the Wall Street Journal has found that the Veterans Administration lobotomized hundreds of World War II vets who had returned from overseas with serious psychiatric conditions.
It sounds like a old darn Grimm's fairy tale, only it's not a fairy tale. It's true.
The Department of Veterans Affairs says it has no record of its lobotomy program, but musty files uncovered by the Wall Street Journal and the National Archives show that between April 1st, 1947, and September 30th, 1950, VA doctors lobotomized 1,464 veterans. The records show another 466 VA lobotomies outside that period, and it's likely hundreds of other vets went through the procedure before antipsychotic drugs came on the market in the mid-50s, revolutionizing mental health care. Roman Tritz is one of the very few still alive to tell the story, a lonely voice from a lost moment in American military history.
Each air medal, he got air medal after he flew 6 missions. This is the European Theater Operations, and then after you get the one, then you get the clusters.
Roman grew up on a farm in Portage, Wisconsin, dreaming of flying even as he helped his parents with the cows. He joined the Army Air Forces and learned to fly a B-17 bomber. From a base in England, he flew 34 combat missions over enemy territory, dodging anti-aircraft fire and German fighters.
And I heard some machine gun fire, and I looked around, and I saw a couple B-17s there, but one of the B-17s had a ME-10 fighter coming up to it, and had his propeller cut the B-17 tail off, and of course the plane went down. And I saw a guy looked like he's momentarily laying there midair, and he's knocked out of the plane.
He came home to Wisconsin at war's end with a clean bill of health from the Army. But in the late 1940s, Roman started hearing voices and acting oddly. It scared his family enough that in 1949, they had him committed to the VA hospital in Tomah, Wisconsin.
I think that's partly why my mom and dad felt it best that he be committed for the safety of the family.
David Merrill was a psychologist in training at the Tomah VA at a time when medicine had few answers.
At that time, there was no treatment really that was effective at all with the psychotic patient. Psychiatric hospitals, which were still crowded with the leftover patients from World War II. The back wards were filled with patients that were out of touch with reality, living in very primitive conditions.
Over 4 years, VA doctors put Roman through dozens of rounds of electroshock therapy. They injected insulin to put him into temporary comas. They sprayed him with powerful jets of water.
They gave me that gold darn insulin, when I first got there, and put me on shock treatment.
Insulin coma and convulsive shock treatment succeeded in bringing back many sick people to good health. However, there were numerous patients who relapsed after shock treatment. Many of these patients can be further benefited by psychosurgery.
Operations can be performed under local anesthesia if the patient is sufficiently cooperative.
In 1953, a VA surgeon cut into Roman's skull and sliced the neural fibers in the front of his brain, an operation much like the one shown in this 1941 footage. At the time, the VA believed the treatment was the best hope for psychologically disturbed vets such as Roman. Dr. Merrill was among those who recommended Roman's lobotomy, a decision he now questions.
It was one of those things where you accepted it because it was the only thing that could be done.
Lobotomies brought relief to some patients, but the radical surgery left other men helpless and vacant. Many, including Roman, suffered seizures. Roman's sister has never forgotten how her brother looked the day after the operation.
My mom and me went to the hospital to see my brother, and I can visualize it yet that he seemed to be in so much pain. He just seemed to be writhing in pain, and it was very heartbreaking to see that.
I never had a headache like that before. Nurses come around and give you pain pills or stuff, you know. It never done any good. Never made sense to me. I can't see why making give you less brains would help you any.
Roman spent 5 more years in and out of the hospital. He finally settled in La Crosse, where he worked in machine shops. Now 90, his home is a one-room rental apartment. He lives on Social Security and a small annuity.
Then I get up around 8:45. I go to eat around 10:30.
Hello, Roman.
And then I read the paper.
But mental illness shadows him everywhere. Roman imagines FBI conspiracies and is troubled by what he calls his magnetic brain.
Because I find programs, I got to go or give up to the FBI, and I won't give up to that darn federal peer investigation.
Each day, Roman carries on his routine, finding a way to live with the damage done by war, by mental illness, and perhaps by medicine itself.
I was in a barber shop here one time, and another guy was in there, and he says, "What in the heck did somebody do to your head anyway?" He said, "So damn fool." And I told him, and he was disgusted with it. So it's not the gold iron America the Beautiful, not to my estimation.